That's what you're saying, Lily.
Welcome back to the trust tree. Maybe I should be saying welcome back to myself because I'm the one that's been missing. I apologize because I was sick. So that was the reason why I was missing because, I'm all about consistency. So my bad. I'm very sorry. Again, welcome back to the trust tree. I am your trustee, the Nashvino. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, hanging there with us. I needed a little break. We all need a little break. We talk about everyone wants to achieve love, peace, and understanding, and that's everyone is entitled to that. So extending grace and consuming grace, that's how we get there. So I had to extend myself some grace and consume a little bit so I can get my life back in order. But I'm back. It's all good. Business as usual. Today, we are going to focus on resilience. So I'm going to give you the definition of it for the sake of context. Resilience is the capacity of a person to maintain their core purpose and integrity in the face of dramatically changed circumstances, the ability to not only overcome setbacks, but to also move forward. So our guest today, I think, is the embodiment of that. And basically, it's going to be a little bit different because we usually have questions and answer type of commentary, but today it's going to be more storytelling kind of setting. We'll throw questions in there here and there. Also, you watching, if you have questions or something you want to hear or something you're curious about, you can always comment and we will find it and do our best to answer those questions. Mm-hmm. Today, I'll let you introduce yourself. Okay. Who are you?
Well, my name is Christinia Eala, and I'm what do they call him? I'm George's mother-in-law. Oh, you can't say that? Oh,
well, you did, so it's all good. We'll just pretend like you didn't.
Okay.
Let's talk about your last name, the meaning behind your last name.
Oh, Eala. Well, it's interesting because my father's from the Philippine Islands, and he's from the village of San Esteban in Ilocos Sur, with the most northern part of Luzon, and my mother's from the Rosebud Reservation. They met when my father was in the Army Air Corps, and Mom and all the girls from boarding school went over there to get jobs. And my father said he saw my mom walking across the parade ground, and he thought she was Oriental, and he fell madly in love. Anyway, they ended up getting married, and then my sister was born. Her name is Evangelina Eala, and then I'm born. They were hoping I was going to be a boy so I could be Crescencio Jr.
Crescencio, I like that.
Huh?
I like that.
Yeah. And so, but I was a girl. So my mom looked at my dad real quick and she said, "Oh, well, don't worry, Chris, we'll name her Christina." And he said, "No, no, no. She will not be just another Christina." So he added the I between the N and the A to make it Christinia. And then my last name, Eala, E-A-L-A. Well, I mean, I just, probably 10 years ago, I finally found out that the Filipino name that I was given is translatable into Lakota. Christinia is a spirit live because we don't say Christ, we say Christ. And then Nia is the breath of life, so Christinia is spirit lives. And then my last name in the Filipino way is Eala, and but the Lakotas say Eala. And so then they said, I remember Michael American Horse, who's my late husband, asked me, "Is that your real name?" And I said, "Well, yeah, it is." And he said, "That's really a cool name." I said, "Really?" He said, "Do you know what it means?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm not sure what you're talking about." He said, "In the Lakota language, your name, Christinia, it would be pronounced Christinia Eala. And what that means, spirit lives, now she cries. Eala is now she cries." Yeah.
That's cool.
I know, huh? To have a Filipino name be able to be translated by a Lakota man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was crazy.
That's like super tattoo worthy. Like just like right around your wrist, maybe.
Okay, I've got the whole story.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Round and round it goes.
Now, have you ever traced back your heritage, your Native American heritage, like to its origin?
Well, what I know is far back, but I have the family tree in book form, but it's in my storage unit in Colorado, and my storage unit is packed to the brim.
Everybody else's.
Yeah, and so I would have to play heck to get to that book.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that we're descendants of a gentleman by the name of Little Chief, and that's what I know. I was gonna contact my cousin Tracy Hoff to see if she might remember. But anyway, but I do remember, my mother, Grace Valandra, my grandmother, Mabel Shaw, my great-grandmother. All three of them are also were all survivors of the boarding schools, the governmental boarding schools. And my great-grandmother, great-grandmother, who was born in the late 1800s, went to the first boarding school that they ever had, which was Carlisle Indian School, and they were really vicious. I mean, and then then my grandmother and my mother both went to the St. Francis Indian Boarding School, and that was right on our reservation, which is Rosebud, South Dakota.
The boarding schools, I know what that is, but I'm pretty sure a lot of our viewers do not know what that is. Are you okay with talking about that?
Oh yeah, I'm fine with talking.
So what is the boarding school?
Well, the boarding school system was designed to try to assimilate the Native Americans into white society. And so when young kids were sent to boarding school, the first thing they did was strip them of their indigenous identity by cutting off their hair, by taking their traditional clothing off, and then they would scrub them down and then pour some kerosene and stuff on them to kill any lice or bugs that they may be carrying. And then they would burn their clothes, and then they would be put in a uniform. And so everybody at boarding school had to wear uniforms. I remember when I went, and I only went for a short while, we had to wear our uniform for an entire week. So if we got it dirty, then we had to wear it dirty, is what the nuns used to tell us. But there was a lot of beatings. There was a lot of. My mother said she was made to kneel on raw rice for hours, for accidentally speaking your language and stuff. And then there was also rape that happened to the kids, and a lot of kids died in the boarding schools. And this happened nationwide, but not just here in this country. It also happened in Canada, New Zealand, Australia. I know there's a few more, but that have really large indigenous populations. So that's where all the boarding schools were, so that they could try to get these kids away from their cultural roots.
Now, how would kids be put in a boarding school? Would there have to have tragedy have to strike, or did they just come in the night and take the kids?
Oh well, they forced the parents to take them.
Your Native American heritage, who was origin?
Well, then they would go there and take a rifle with them and say, "You're either going to send that child to boarding school, or we're going to take that one by force if we have to shoot you." So there was really no choice.
Would they typically let the parents be once they took the kids?
Would they what?
Would they let the parents be or would they terrorize them after they've already taken the kids to the boarding school?
Oh, would they terrorize the parents?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the parents tried to get them, but a lot of parents then would move their teepees a lot closer to the boarding schools, so they wouldn't have so far to travel, because when they took children, they put them generally on in the boarding school that was farthest from the reservation that they lived on. We were fortunate because we were, the boarding school was on our res. But yeah, so children would run away, and run however far and long it took to get back to their people. Which reminds me, oh my God, one of my favorite stories is in the beginning times when we were all indigenous. Well, I read this book called Of Spirit and Water by Malidoma Some. They had boarding schools in Africa. They did the same thing in Africa. They took Malidoma all the way across the continent, and And then at some point during his stay there, I think he was in the 5th grade. He'd been there for a few years, and they took his language away from him because if you take the language and make them speak another one at an early age, they lose a lot of their cultural language. Anyway, so all the boys were talking because there was a certain point where each young man was taken into an office and then came out really different somehow. Well, then word got out to the boys, the boys that were coming behind, that the priests were taking them in there and raping them. And so when it was Maladoma's turn, the priest went out of the room for a minute, and Malidoma jumped out of an open window and ran all the way across the continent. And he would stop in different tribal villages that would help him and hide him and let him rest, and they would feed him until he got home to his people. Then once he got home to his people, it was like because he was gone for about 4 or 5 years. And so then when he got home to his people, they sort of avoided him. And it was because he no longer spoke the language, and he had to relearn it. He knew about the traditions, but by the time they're his age, he would have gone through several traditions. And so anyway, but his father loved him and he helped him. So he helped him reintegrate back into the tribe, relearn the language really fluently again, and then put him through the rites of passage ceremonies that he had missed out on because he was put in that school.
I love that.
So the stories are same on anywhere you go where there are boarding schools. The treatment was the same: children running away, dying in the desert or dying in the mountains to get home. Yeah, they took drastic measures just to be home with their people.
Now, let's say in a perfect world, they get the kids, they go to the boarding school, and they stay there without running away, without issue. What's the uniform time frame that the child is expected to stay?
Well, generally, let me see here, because Mom said she went there from preschool, so she was 4 years old, and I think they only go up to the 8th grade.
So that's about 14?
Yeah, okay. Something like that. So for that period of time. Of course, now they go through to graduation at 12th grade, like other
So
schools.
Boarding schools in that sense still exist? Maybe.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, they do. Although the boarding school in St. Francis has now been turned into, what was it turned? Oh, it was turned into a church. Yeah. All right. I could be, if anybody from Rosebud is listening to this, forgive me if I'm getting it wrong a little bit.
At what age were you when you and maybe this was your whole life, but when you got just really passionate about your cultural heritage and just this I'm not going to, Americanize myself, just kind of acclimate to, mainstream culture?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, my father being from the Philippine Islands, came to this country, and he didn't want to, speak the language. There was, first of all, going to Fort Collins, which is a very white community, there weren't a lot of Filipinos, but they all found each other and started the Filipino barangay, which in the Lakota language, that would be Tioshbe. Tioshbe and barangay are the same thing. That means extended family. And so anyway, he didn't, people made fun of him because of the way he looked, the different clothes, the smell, different foods, and the way he spoke with that thick Filipino language. And then my mother, of course, being from boarding school on the reservation, they were never allowed to speak their language. And, they had their hair cut off and, the whole 9 yards. Well, so my father and my mother both agreed with each other there will be nothing but English spoken in our family. And I feel like that hurt us, the children, more than it did them. Because look how much has been lost. So much has been lost. And but thank goodness, in this day and age now, with you're talking about resiliency, traditional tribal languages are now being brought back,
Mm-hmm.
and they have immersion schools where you could, where I could go and learn the Lakota language, those kinds of things. But I think that when I really fully started embracing who I um, was probably when I lived in Lemoore, California. That's in the central San Joaquin Valley. And I started making friends with the California Indian tribes, in particular the Tachi and the Choinumni people. Um, and because I just missed being around indigenous people. You know, my mom was so brainwashed in boarding school that I remember one night we went out dancing, and there was a table full of Tachi people, and I kept looking at them and smiling, and they'd smile back. And my mom said, "Don't look at them." Yeah, I mean, she was really uh, brainwashed, and it really broke my heart for her because she missed out on the beauty, you know, the true beauty of of the Lakota ways. Um, but anyway, so yeah, um, let's see. So we were put in boarding school just for a short while. Mom really didn't want that for us because she knew what it was like.
Mm-hmm.
But then my father had a music business in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and they decided he was going to move his whole shop down into Fort Collins. He was urged by uh, Maury Albertson, who was a guy that was at Colorado State University, and my father serviced all of the musical instruments at Colorado State University, and also helped them build a really good band. Um, so when they decided to make that move, it was going to take a long time, quite a while. So they put us in boarding school, but not on our reservation. They put us in Holy Rosary, which was on the Pine Ridge Reservation. And the reason they did that was because my mother said that Sister Helenita was over at Rosebud, and she was her favorite nun. She's the only one that didn't slap and hit and beat the kids. She would comfort them all the time. So, but she transferred over to Pine Ridge, and that's why Mom put us in the boarding school at Pine Ridge. But just for a short time that we got to, so we really did experience the taking of our clothes, and burning them and getting the uniform and spraying us down with all the insecticides they could
Yeah.
find, scrubbing us down.
Do you think if you would have had that experience that would maybe change your passion a little bit?
If I would not have
if you would have had the negative experience, being sprayed down and all that.
Oh, well, I did have it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said you didn't.
No, I did.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
There's that.
Whoa. So that's why I understand my mom, and all the people that were in boarding school. As a matter of fact, in my current iteration, I have a 501c3 in Fort Collins, and it's called Teoshpe Weamaka, which is the Lakota language for the extended family of women of the earth. Teoshpe, extended family, Wea, women, Maka, earth. And one of the programs that I collaborate with is called the Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition. And it's for survivors and children of survivors of the boarding school system. Because everything that happened to mother, grandmother, great-grandmother happened to my sister and I. And the beatings, I was raped for the first time when I was 4 years old because my father was busy building his business. My mother was busy finding her next husband. And we were left to run the streets at night, whatever. And and so I had that, and then I was sexually exploited as a child because of that. And anyway, so, and then when we moved to Fort Collins, just all of a sudden, it was a beautiful little town. I mean, it's almost like a Edelweiss or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it all stopped, and I thought, oh my gosh, nobody's trying to get at me sexually, but when that happens to you as a child, you get really mixed feelings. Like if somebody says, I love you, you go, oh yeah, I know what you want. You just want to have sex with me. Mm-hmm. Or if they want to have sex with me, I would say, well, you must be wanting to have sex with me because you love me. You know, I mean, it was just something I think that happens because when those things happen to you as a child, you get very confused about that because they say only people who are in love have sex. You know, those kinds of things.
Now, did you say something when it happened, or did you just kind of
You mean when I was raped the
when
first time?
when you were younger?
Well, when I was 4, I didn't say anything. I mean, because I was left in a motel with a stranger by my mother. It was her boyfriend turned husband, and she left us because she heard that her father got sick, and we were traveling back to Colorado on a bus. So we got a motel in the mountains. She went back to tend to her dad, and said that she would. Um, I think she said we should go ahead and finish the trip, and then she would come. Anyway, so we got a motel, and that's when he raped me the first time. Yeah,
Have
and
mercy.
yeah, and I didn't know what to say. What can you say?
What
You're
can you
4 years
say?
old.
Right.
I remember just letting out a little whimper, and that was it. Yeah,
Wow.
so, yeah.
And how I don't even know how to say. How great is that for you that you're able to offer services to those who've kind of been mishandled in the very same
I
way?
love it. Oh Lord, I love it because it took me. I can't even begin to tell you how many years to even be able to acknowledge it, to admit it, to learn to come to terms with it. I mean, it wasn't like it just went boom, boom, boom in like a 3-year period. It took me probably a good 40 years, maybe more, a little bit more, before I could really do that. Plus, and the thing that helped me, of course, was, finding my identity and walking the red road of the Lakota, which is the spiritual path, and going through all the ceremonies. I'm considered a traditional Lakota woman.
How was that?
How's that?
The ceremonies?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
for you, just
Yeah, I'm a ceremonial woman. I love it. I love it. It saved my life. I really do believe that. It saved my sanity, saved my emotions, my spirit, my heart. Yeah. And so, and I tried, going to some therapists pre finding my way
that was going to be
home.
my next question. If you've
Yeah.
actually had traditional therapy.
Well, I before I found my way back, which took a little while, I went to a white therapist who was very kind. And he said, Christinia, you come from one of the most powerful people I've ever known in my life. You need to go home. And I did. Yeah. And I didn't know where to begin, so I just started at
Just
the
start.
beginning.
Yep.
Yeah.
First things always start.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Okay.
And the fact that I can talk about it openly now, it's because of my healing, is that I feel like those of us who have been through it and have reached a certain place in our healing journey, I think I'm obligated to say, you've been through that. Take my hand, sister. Walk with me for a while. And so I extend that. I extend that back. That's what we, as women, we need to help each other. We need to support each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how closely does your organization work with the organization that offers the support to survivors of the boarding schools?
Well, I attend all their conferences, and they're usually online. So if you would like to check one out ever, you can do that. And so I watch all their things online. They're in Colorado Springs. I live in Fort Collins, and I just like them behind the scenes. So I interact with them when I need a question answered that maybe I don't have an answer to.
Okay. I was just curious, if you've ever worked with someone directly that was a survivor and just kind of helped with the healing. And,
I have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have. I've worked with quite a few.
Do they typically seek the services voluntarily or?
Sometimes. I sought it. I went after it, and but some are just referred, and it's very, very. I remember the first time I led a group of women that had that happen, and so they all came and gathered, and they were going to sit down. I said, "Don't sit down, don't sit down. We're not staying in here. We're going outside, into the sunshine." So we went outside and we found a grassy spot, and I said, "You know how I think we should start?" He said, "What?" I said, "Let's all lay down on the earth mother with our womb pressed against hers, you know, and feel her, you know, and then I just gave quiet time. And I said, okay, now let's stand up. I want each one of you to take one of these trees and I want you to hug it.
I love trees.
Yeah, I do too. I said, and I want you to hug it and embrace it and talk to it, you know, because the Earth Mother and the trees, you know, I believe that, like in lodge, we call it inipi, but it's a sweat lodge. And so when you go in there and there's 4 rounds. Now, there's 4 rounds. There's 4 rounds in a sweat lodge. That means you open the door 4 times. And then there's 4 rounds in Hamblecha, which is crying for vision. And there's 4 rounds in the Sundance. And always, the first day is spent calling to the spirits and bringing them into your circle, bringing the spirits. So, calling of the spirits. The second day is always the day of prayer, and that's so. Then we spend the whole day praying, or the whole time praying, and then the third day is always the healing day, the day of healing. And then the fourth day is sending spirit back and saying, thank you. I can feel what you've done for me. I love you so much. And thank you. And then after that, we usually offer a meal. It's called a wopula, which is kind of like a thank you. So we offer a meal to the spirit world, you know, because spirit, you know, we always set, and even dinners, we make spirit plates, spirit food, and we put it on a plate and we give them a little bit of everything that we're going to eat. And then we set it outside. And then you go back, maybe the next day, and you take that, and the food is there, but it's different. And you can tell that the energy has been sucked out of it by spirit. And so then after that, then we find some place and we place it in the west. You know, then we leave it offering in the west next to a tree generally. Yeah. And,
Why next to the tree? I'm curious.
Well, because trees are sacred, and we figured that when the food breaks down, it's going to nourish the tree. Yeah. Okay. Composting.
So kind of along the same road, I guess. The other day we were talking, and you mentioned that you believe you were a dolphin in your past life. I'm just curious. Did something happen to make you think that, or is it when you see dolphins, you just kind of feel a connection? Where'd that come from?
You know, I just used to have visions and dreams about swimming in the ocean and just kind of looking around, and I knew I was a dolphin. I just knew I was a dolphin. And then, I mean, I never lost that. I never lost that feeling. But then I thought, okay, let's get serious, Christina. Now, are you really having memories of being a dolphin, or are you remembering swimming around in the waters in your mother's womb?
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah. So I had to contemplate that.
Could be one or the other.
I know. I
don't know. I kind of like the dolphin thing though, because
I do too.
They're super smart.
Yeah.
Everybody loves them.
And my elder granddaughter, she gifted me with some abalone dolphin earrings. I don't have them on, but yeah, so she gave me some dolphin earrings because she knows how much I love dolphins.
Yeah. You have done a lot of work with Indigenous people from all over, as far as standing with their causes. Standing Rock. I don't want to butcher this name, but it's in Mexico. Is it Chiapas?
Oh, Chiapas.
Yes, Chiapas. Yeah, okay. And then Indigenous people of Puerto Rico. What made you just kind of jump off the porch, so to speak, and just say, you know what, I'm going to represent for everybody who's been oppressed and, just kind of, needs my help in the moment?
Yeah. Well, let me think here. Okay. So I love bringing Indigenous people to Fort Collins. And so I did that one year, and I, got a room at Colorado State University. And somebody said, "You'll never get people to this. You never will. You didn't really take much time to promote it." And I said, "Well, it's okay. I want them to sit up there, and I'd like to hear what they have to say and whatnot." The auditorium was packed. It was packed because everybody in Fort Collins want to hear about Indigenous people's ways from whatever country they're from, you know. And then, and through that, I met Dr. Ramon Nenadich from Puerto Rico, and he invited me to Puerto Rico. So I went over to Puerto Rico and did a lot of stuff with them, attended their ceremonies. It was pretty exciting. I danced their dances and thought I was going to die of a heart attack. Because the women do a really fast dance. They're going around really, really fast, fast, fast. And then they start making a spiral. So they spiral in. And then when they get really tight, then they, like that. And it was going so fast. I thought, I don't think I can make it. And it's so funny because I was there with also two Lakota chiefs, Chief, um, uh, oh gosh, well, Chief Good Voice and Chief Beautiful, wait a minute, what's his name? Why can't I remember his name? I can any other time I can remember it. But his name was Beautiful Bald Eagle. Yeah, Beautiful Bald Eagle. Anyway, um, and so I met them, and the three of them, Nenadich and the two chiefs, started an organization called United Indigenous Nations. And I thought that was very interesting because I've always been a member of United Nations I've been that way for 16 years or so now. And so I joined the United Indigenous Nations. And so we traveled around and met with Indigenous peoples a lot here in the United States because a lot of them being from different countries wanted to meet Indigenous people here. And then one night I had them come all over to my house, to meet because we were going someplace else. And I said, well, let's gather at my house. And so I have these beautiful people from different countries coming. Yeah,
That's
South
cool.
America, Central America. It was wonderful. And then speaking of those, though, I wanted to mention real quick that they have a 4 Directions run every 4 years because it's so big and it takes that long to organize it. But you have runners. They call them the red arrow and the blue arrow. The red arrow is in the east because that's where the sun comes up, and there's a time and we have red day, blue day, because if you notice when the sun first starts coming up and you look around, there's like this this red, this red soft color to the morning. And then blue day or the blue arrow is in the west where the sun goes down. And then at dusk, it's sort of the blue day. So I find it fascinating that, we had that in common as well. But anyway, so the red arrow, the blue arrow run the east and the west coast. But they start up in Alaska and down in Tierra del Fuego. And that's the northernmost region and the southernmost region. And then they divide up into their arrows and they start running, and they run the entire length of Turtle Island because we call the island that we live on Turtle Island. And that Turtle Island is made up of Alaska and South America. The whole thing was nothing but indigenous people until, of course, we were slaughtered to the tune of like 100 million indigenous people during the invasion. Yeah. And so anyway, those are the exciting things that indigenous people are doing to rise up. Rise up, show who you are. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of your heritage.
It's really important.
It's very important. It's crucial.
When you were, at your age when you started to have children, kind of before they came, what did you think you were going to do as far as making sure that your culture was prevalent in your household? How was that, thinking about it before you had kids versus when they came? Okay, let's make sure we get you together.
Yeah. Well, I was just a crazy woman, and my children are Irish and Lakota and Filipina. Jessica and her brother. My younger children are, and they don't like it when I say this, but they're Chichimeca, because let's see, their father was from Jalisco. But my daughter married a man from Zacatecas. In that area along there was the original home or the original lands of the Chichimeca tribe. And they're very powerful and strong tribe that fought off the Spanish invasion for years until finally, you know, Spain sent like 10,000 soldiers to help do that. And so, but what I did was when I had started walking the path, I took my children to every ceremony. All of my children have been to every single ceremony of the Lakota on the road. Yeah.
Were they like really, oh, I don't want to do it? Or is it just kind of.
Well, what do you think, Jessica?
No, I mean, it was just what we did.
Yeah. They didn't have a choice, but listen, this is funny. Rita, my youngest daughter, one day I was going around the house and I was smudging. And I opened up the door to her and Jessica's room, but she was in there reading. I was smudging away. And she said, Mom, I said, what? She said, am I evil? And I said, no, honey, why would you say that? Because I can't stand the smell of sage.
I mean, it's,
well, maybe, no.
it's strong.
I know. It is strong, but I just happen to love the smell of it. And sage tea is really good. It'll be good for your throat.
Oh.
And they have some upstairs. And you
Okay.
boil it and make a nice tea. Or you can even just put some in the side of your mouth and suck it.
Really?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Huh.
It's really good for your throat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
And
talk
so
about
is beer
sage.
root. Okay.
Lord, let's talk about sage for a second because I think people abuse sage.
Oh,
When is the appropriate time? When or what? What should you sage, and what is the appropriate time to sage, in your opinion?
well, I don't think there's an appropriate time. I mean, because, what may be appropriate for one is not necessarily something that somebody else is going to do. It happens, though, with people who know the ways and they know about smudging and whatnot. They generally will sage if they feel like there's a spirit in the house, or if they're in a grumpy mood or something. Oh, I don't know what's going on with me today. Oh heck, I better sage. They smudge, and so then they start to feel better. There's something about the sage. It's the what the heck is it called? It's the energy exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that happens and it changes everything. And I've gone. People call me sometimes to smudge their homes down for them because they feel really bad energy there. I had one call me over to do a really good smudge down because his ex-wife, had hung herself on the patio in that home. So he said, you've got to do it. He said, I can't stand it. I feel her all the time and I feel she's so not at rest. And, well, when you take your own life, I think that
Kind of comes with the territory.
it does. So I did, and those are, and so we use salt, and smudge and water, that's been blessed by the medicine man, things like that. And so, yeah, I think I would say that there's no inappropriate time to use it. Yeah.
I was just curious.
Was that? Oh, yeah.
I find that since I've been in my 40s that I'm not able to shake off energies. Like they get on me, and it takes a while. Like the heavier, evil, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
The heavier it is, the more time it takes. And usually I have this thing now where I sit still through all of my non-positive feelings.
Yeah.
So just to kind of work them out. And so like I used to get very frustrated because I just could never understand, like if I'm around certain people or involved in certain situations, like maybe 3-4 days afterwards, I still feel some type of way.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started to like really pay attention to it and like kind of take it apart, I just kind of sit through it and just like let it work its way out. Sometimes I'll brain dump and just kind of write to try to work it out and just move past it. So, instead of thinking about it or whatever. But I really find that being still is very valuable.
Oh, it is.
In life.
Yeah.
And, on this show, we talk about that a lot. We constantly are saying that because I think people put a lot on everything else except for themselves to kind of cleanse it all away or, figure things out or whatever. And you mentioned that when you talked about working with the women, going outside in the sunshine and womb to the earth
Yeah.
and just kind of, sitting still. But yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I was going to say, I can still get triggered. I've been triggered probably in the last 4 months. I mean, it doesn't stay with me. It's not I'm triggered every day, but no, I got triggered, and I went through probably 3 months of searching.
Mhm.
But I think that's good. Going within and searching to see what the heck.
Being self-aware is very important.
Oh yeah, it is.
Very, very
Let's go to
important.
the restroom.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. And while you go, I'll read the passage.
Okay.
All right, so people, I know you're familiar with this book. You know what this is.
Yes, I love it.
But this passage that we're going to read is about giving.
Mm.
Okay, so
Oh.
you can just go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. For what are your possessions but things you keep in guard for fear you may need them tomorrow? And tomorrow, what shall tomorrow bring to the over prudent dog bearing bones in the trackless sand as he follows the pilgrims to the holy city? And what is fear of need but need itself? Is not dread of thirst when your well is full, the thirst that is unquenchable. There are those who give little of the much which they have, and they give it for recognition, and their hidden desire makes their gifts unwholesome. And there are those who have little and give it all. These are the believers in life and the bounty of life, and their coffer is never empty. There are those who give with joy there are those who give with joy, and that joy is their reward. And there are those who give with pain, and that pain is their baptism. Damn, that's deep. And there are those who give and know not pain is giving, nor do they seek joy, nor give with mindfulness of virtue. They give as in yonder valley the myrtle breathless its fragrance into space. Through the hands of such as these God speaks, and from behind their eyes he smiles upon the earth. It is well to give when asked, but it is better to give unasked, through understanding. I'm going to read that again. It is well to give when asked, but it is better to give unasked, through the understanding. And to the open-handed, the search for one who shall receive is joy greater than giving. And is there aught you would withhold? All you have shall someday be given. Therefore, give now. That's the season of giving may be yours and not your inheritors. You often say, I would give, but only to the deserving. The trees in your orchard say not so, nor the flocks in your pasture. They give that they may live, for to withhold is to perish. Surely he who is worthy to receive his days and his nights is worthy of all these from you. And he who has deserved to drink from the ocean of life deserves to fill his cup from your little stream. And what desert greater shall there be than which lies in the courage and the confidence, nay, the charity of receiving? And who are you that men should rend their bosom and unveil their pride, that you may see their worth naked and their pride unabashed? See first that you yourself deserve to be a giver and an instrument of giving. For in truth, it is life that gives unto life, while you who deem yourself a giver are but a witness. And you, receivers, and you are all receivers, assume no weight of gratitude, lest you lay a yoke upon yourself and upon him who gives. Rather rise together with the giver on his gifts as on the wings. For to be overmindful of your debt is to doubt his generosity, who has the free-hearted earth for mother and God for father. I love this book so much.
Oh yeah.
It's just thirst quenching.
Do you know what just dawned on me when you were reading that? I saw his home. I was asked to go to Brattleboro, Vermont, and so was Lila June Johnson. That's where we met. And so we were driving, oh gosh, from Brattleboro to another little town, and then there was this big sign. And it was the home where Khalil Gibran had lived until I think he died, and I think that's where he wrote that book.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so cool. I said, "Oh no, I'm so excited!"
How was the energy in that place?
Oh, beautiful! Oh, so beautiful! Oh my God! I mean, just looking at it, it was like it had such an aura around it for me. Yeah, for me.
Somebody once told me we were around someone and they were talking about being used and just being like frustrated with being used by everybody. And this person was like, well, isn't that what we're put on earth for? I mean, what else are we supposed to do? And like when they said that, I kind of had the same energy as the other person that was kind of griping, like, yeah. But then I thought about it from that perspective. Sure. I mean, because I guess in a way you could you could save yourself a lot of heartache. Of course, somebody has malicious intent. That's one thing. But like that passage, you have stuff and you can't take it with you. And I mean, you bought it because you liked it or you made it or whatever, you grew it, but you don't need it right now. But they do. Just give it to them. Yeah. They need it or whatever, And I mean, I think the responsibility is on the giver and the receiver. But you have to keep it going. Like just like the transfers of energy and anything else that we have that we cannot take with us when we die. Like, what is the point of having it if it's not being used, whatever that is? So, I wanted to ask you what you thought about that, but.
Well, I think that's really powerful, and that's the Lakota traditional way. The first thing that came to mind was ceremony. I was thinking about Sundance first because a true Sundance leader, they're always gifted after the Sundance. They're gifted with money, which isn't the most important thing, but he needs that money to get the truck that carries a tree that takes it to the Sundance ground and for everything that's needed. And then after Sundance, he's gifted with all of these wonderful things. I mean, Pendleton blankets and everything. And then when that part is over, then he gives it all away. He gives it to the people because he knows who the people are, what families really need it. And so he gives it all away. And the same thing during Inipi or Sweat Lodge, the person, say that I'm a lodge leader, and you come and you say, Christinia, I really would like to know if you could pour water for me. That's what it's called, pouring water. But you would ask with either cigarettes, some kind of tobacco, or if you have a sacred pipe, while you're talking, you're going like this, and I'm listening to you and keeping eye contact with you. And then on the fourth time, and so you don't want your words to go beyond the fourth offering. And so then if I accept that gift, then I have a spiritual obligation to you to do that. And so then after it's over, then you who came and asked for the lodge, you would give a lot of things. You gather things to give to the people that came to your lodge to support you in your prayers. So, and it's the same thing when a person goes on the hill, which is the Humpalecha, crying for vision. And that's when you go up into the mountains, you're surrounded by trees and anyway, so with all this, especially the last two, you fast for 4 days and 4 nights. And so you go up on the hill and you cry for a vision, and on the third day, which is the healing day, is when if spirits are going to come and you have the vision, then that would be a day of healing. And then the last day is spent, and then you go down, and then you gathered all this stuff to give to everybody, because when you go up on the hill, you're up there alone, it's true, but you have all these helpers who carry everything that you're going to need to be in your hochoka. A hochoka is we call it the center of the universe. And each one of us, we are our own hochoka. The center of the universe lies within us, each one of us. And so then when I come down off the hill, I've gathered stuff to give to all of my helpers. You know, we bring meals to have a wopila meal, a thank you dinner. I mean, it's you do the same thing after just about after every single ceremony, whether it's Sweat Lodge, Amblesia, or Sundance. You know, you follow the protocol is really similar in all of them. So we give and people who and people the Lakotas the Hordnago. You know, look at everything they have over there. How come they're not helping people? You know, and I love it. Pointing with the lips.
Yeah. So I ask some of these questions every interview. We get really good responses. You're in a room filled with everybody you've ever loved. Who do you run to?
My dad. Yeah, he was my hero. He was my stability. Not always, you know, I mean, but yeah, I just adored him. He was very kind and very gentle. And, you know, he was born in 1919. So when his kids came along, he was already going on his early 30s. And if we ever got, and so we were left alone with him sometimes with my mom, sometimes to run the streets. But if ever we got sick, my father was our doctor. He said, I don't trust Western medicine, and I don't want you to ever trust Western medicine. The majority of the American people don't know that they're the guinea pigs for the big pharmaceutical companies, you know? And so he would always treat us with the Filipino indigenous methodologies of healing. And so I was, you know, and so I like that. And it's really nice because it's the same thing among the Lakota. You know, a lot of, you know, there are a lot who go to the doctor, but I'm one who pretty much would choose ceremony over a doctor anytime. I was diagnosed with, what was I diagnosed with? MS, multiple sclerosis.
You never told me that.
I know, well, I forgot. Anyway, so I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and they had to put me through a series of tests, and I had 2 brain scans.
MRIs?
MRI, yeah. And I had white spots all over my brain. He said, yep, you've got multiple sclerosis. And I said, oh. So I went over to my friend's house, and I said, the doctor said, it's been affirmed that I have MS. And she said, oh, really? Okay, well, I'm calling the people together for ceremony. And she did. And so I think it was I think I was diagnosed on a Wednesday. By Friday, my spiritual circles from, especially from Denver, around Fort Collins, and different, over in Weld County, they all came to Fort Collins. And we always have them in the basement. They're always done, you can't even see your hand in front of your face because it's so pitch black. They cover all the windows. If there's one little light that gets in, they'll stop the ceremony until that light is covered. And so anyway, and there were a lot of people there praying and whatnot. And I remember sitting there, and do you see the color of that little green light over there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there were like hundreds of them across the room. And I remember sitting there, and I was amazed. They were a little more lime green, but they were dancing.
Mine were white.
Yours were white?
Mine were white.
Yeah. And they were dancing and dancing. Do you remember seeing them dancing?
Yeah.
Anyway, so then I was watching them and smiling. I said, look at all the wonderful blessings they're getting. Oh, how wonderful. And the next thing I knew, they started dancing over to our side of the room. And I'm going, whoa, here they come. Yeah, and I was watching them. All of a sudden, the whole room was that light. I couldn't see anything but that light right in front of me. And the hair all over my body stood up. And I remember throwing myself down on the floor and bursting into tears. And I said, oh my, and I knew I was healed. And I said, oh my God. And in my head, I said, my God, you know, why me, why me? And the Spirit said, why not you? You're as deserving as any other person in this room for healing, you know? And because, you know, I didn't know if I guess I was still having a lot of issues with my self-esteem, self-worth, the things that we all go through at some point in life. And So anyway, yeah, I was healed, and it was on the third night because it was a 4-night ceremony, and uh, that was Ted. His name was Ted Phelps. Wonderful, wonderful spiritual healer. And so that night he said, "Okay, turn on the lights. It's over." And so they turned on the lights, and everybody was stretching, and they were saying, "Oh, just one more night." And Ted said, "No, not one more night." I said, "This is the last night." She was healed tonight. So he saw a spirit heal me, right? So then he said, "Christinia, come up here. I want to speak words to you, but I want to say them in front of all of your wonderful friends who came to help you heal from this illness." And I said, so I got up and I went up to the front, and he said, "Words are a very powerful thing." And that physician or that neurologist knows that. So when he said, "Yep, it's definite, you've got MS," he planted a word seed in your head. And if you had believed, I believed him, but I knew I had to do something about it. And he said, if you would have waited any longer than you did, instead of going for immediately having somebody help you put together a ceremony, he said that would have given those seeds a chance to grow roots. When those roots grow down into your body, that's when you start to manifest the physical symptoms of whatever disease you were told you have.
So sort of like when people are diagnosed with cancer, but they're as far as they're concerned, they're virtually healthy, nothing's wrong. But then as soon as they find out about it,
word seed, yeah. And so that's when you have to turn to prayer. And all of this really does depend on the individual heart and the individual belief system. If you're a believer in spirit and the healing powers of spirit, it can happen for almost anybody. If you're I don't know, then maybe sometimes they'll have to do something to prove it to you. But if you're a non-believer, you just go the other way, and the seeds grow, and the disease manifests.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. In that same room, full of people who you've loved your whole life, you told us who you run to. Who runs to you?
In that room?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope my sister, Evangelina. Paji was her nickname. And she was real tiny. Always tiny. And because I miss her a lot. Yeah. She crossed over, I don't know how many years ago. 12, 14. And I miss her all the time.
I heard a lot about her.
Yeah.
Hell, I miss her.
Oh.
Okay. I'd like to ask people, if they're comfortable with it, what they're most insecure about.
What I'm most insecure about? Well, I had some real insecure moments today because I got in a fuss with my daughter in Colorado. And I was feeling really insecure because I love them. Oh, God, I just love all my kids so much. And when we get in a fuss, which is really extremely rare.
Kind of shakes.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, that's good enough. I think I about feel the same way about my mom. It's kind of, no matter how small the argument is, it's devastating either way.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a quick story if I could.
Yeah.
Okay. This is from the Filipino side of me now. Okay. So my dad, his musical store was in this building, and there was a big house next door to it with 7 bedrooms. And he would come over to the house at night, because he would work till 10 or 11 because it was a one-man business, And I would come home from school, go down to the hamburger shop, meet all my friends. Then I'd have to go home, and then I'd have to take care of the front counter in the store for a while. Then I would go home and do my homework, and then just read or whatever the heck I wanted to do. That was the day before cell phones, and and things like that. So I would read. I'd love to read. And then he would come home around 11, and he would give a knock at my door to see if I was still awake. And if I was, I would get up, and he'd go in the kitchen and put the tea kettle on, and we would make tea and sit down and have tea. And so then I was a senior that year. So I was 17, I think. Anyway, he said, you know, daughter, he said, it dawned on me today, this is your last year of high school. And I found myself asking myself, I wonder if I've given her anything to help her be strong, you know, in her future life, whether it's going into university or whatever it was that I chose to do. So I want to ask you this question. I said, okay. And I was expecting it. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't what I expected. He said, what is it that every person on the face of the earth wants more than anything else in life? And I said, well, that's easy. Power. He goes, oh God, no. I said, okay, money. He said, oh, no. This really letting me know real dramatically how disappointed he was with my answers. And then finally I said, love. And he looked at me and he kind of smiled and he said, no, but at least you turned around and you're going the right direction now. And I said, and so I said a couple of other things, and I said, I don't know, Daddy. What does every person on the face of the earth want more than anything else? He said, what everyone wants more than anything else is just for one other person to listen to their story.
Oh.
And I think he set my path in life.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that is what everybody wants.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not mad at that. What would you say to yourself in like a very dark time? Like if you can go back and kind of talk to yourself and talk you through the, one of those moments, what would you say to yourself?
You have no clue yet how the world is going to become expansive, how the universe is going to shine down on you, how you're going to find yourself. And so don't, because I tried committing suicide when I was 15. And that's what I would say to myself, you know, just hang on, hang with it. You have to go where the universe tells you to go. You have to do what you're told to do in a good way. Be a better judge of who's telling you to do what. And that's what I would tell her. I would tell Tina.
Speak up just a little bit.
Okay. Well, yeah, because my childhood name was Tina. I was called Tina by everybody. And then at some point, I just said, I don't want my childhood name anymore. I want my birth name, which is Christinia. You know, and then of course I made all these wonderful discoveries about the name. And so when I think of Tina, I think of my little girl self. Yeah. And I would tell her those things. And especially when it got hard, you know, because once I took the bottle of pills, I was staying in my room, and I was sitting in my room, and I thought, I don't think I really want to die. I just don't think I want to. So I went and woke my sister up and her husband. I said, Pudgy, could you take me to the hospital, please? She said, why? And I said, well, because I just took a whole bottle of pills, and I decided I don't want to die. And she said, oh, okay. So she and her husband got up, got dressed, took me to the hospital, and who was the doctor on call that night? Our family doctor.
Oh.
Yeah. And so they filled my stomach full of charcoal, liquid charcoal, and made me throw everything up. I had to keep throwing it up and keep throwing it up. And And then Dr. Hilliard looked at me, he looked at me and he said, you do understand that if you don't tell your father, I will. And I said, okay, I'll tell him. I didn't tell him. And he came in my room that night after he got home from a business trip. He said, why did you do that? And I knew he had talked to the doctor, had called him. Didn't even wait to see if I would tell her. And I said, because I don't remember in all my life anybody telling me that they loved me or that they cared about me. You know, my mom was always off and running, looking for the next guy. She very rarely, she would say, I love you when she was leaving. And it was always, I love you, goodbye. My father never said that. My father never said, I love you to us. I was like, did he, Pudgy? And so I thought, what the hell? I don't know what kind of world this is. I don't know if I even want to be here. But then Daddy came and brought me, he went and heated up, brought me some hot milk and sat down and said, why did you do that? And I told him that. And he looked at me and he said, you know, I love you. I do love you. I put a roof over your head. I keep food in your stomach. You know, I let you do what you want to do when you want to do it, as long as your homework is done and as long as you're going with friends. You know, he really was sort of overprotective. And so anyway, what was that question?
We were talking about in that regard. We were talking about him telling you, well, you telling him why you did it.
Oh yeah. So, but anyway, so that was probably one of the darkest times in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you remember that day, or even if it was a couple days leading up to it, like what even put you in that train of thought? Like, had you felt sad for a while, or was just perfect place, perfect time, perfect storm?
It was that. All of those. Perfect place, perfect time, perfect storm. Because I think that when I was in high school, I went to 13 different schools to just graduate from 12th grade. Yeah. My mom moved around a lot. I was always, you know, in between Daddy in the summer, Mom during the school year. And every time we went back to Mom to go to school, it was in a different state because she always married military men. And so I started Fort Collins High School when I was a sophomore. So I spent 2 years there. And it's like, you know, you have to get to know people all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you know, and then all my life when I was leaving the schools where I would finally adapt for a while, I always was able to find one best friend. And, but anyway, so yeah, I think I had a bad day at school. I think my dad got grumpy at me at the shop because maybe I stayed too long at the they called it the campus shop. They had a hamburger stand in there. And I don't know, but yeah, and I don't know. I was numb. That was it. I think it was just because I was numb. I felt non-existent.
Okay.
You know, I felt really empty. And I thought, oh, well.
And it's two different styles of living. In the summertime, you're with your father, and that's a much more stable environment.
Stable.
I think children strive in stability.
Oh,
and it's just too much going on. And then, you know, going to, you know, a situation where, you know, where are we going to live this fall or whatever, you know.
Well, and not only that, my mother was married 5 times. And so I never, you know, we had to adjust to these different husbands that she had. And so that was difficult. So that's why I would choose my father, because of the stability. And even if he didn't say, I love you, at least I felt stable and stronger when I was with him, because he would allow me to talk. I could talk to him, really talk to him. My mom, you had to watch what you say, or she'd haul off and slap the shit out of you. Yeah.
Mothers do quite often.
Yeah, they do that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't even being sassy.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you were to pass away today and you weren't able to say your proper goodbyes, what do you think would be your biggest regret?
Well, let me see. You know, that's been on my mind a lot because I'm going on 78. And so, I have been thinking about, my time of crossing. And like I like what we say in the Lakota way, um, when just as you cross, the ancestors are going to come and they'll be standing right beside you and they'll welcome you to that side, and then they're going to dance you across the Milky Way to our real home. Yeah. And I like that vision. So I hang on to that vision these days, that I feel more sad for my children, and I know that I'll miss them. But the cultists also believe that my spirit will hang around for 4 days, and then with the other ancestors, and then after 4 days, that's when we start to dance across the Milky Way. So I'll be there to comfort my children in any way that I can, and I know that because I can feel people for a while, and everybody does, and then also in the Lakota way, we make a bundle, and like my hunkas is hunkayapi is a ceremony called the making of relatives, and when my hunka sister crossed over, we had a large ceremonial teepee, and they built her what is that thing called? Scaffold. They built a scaffold in there, and they lined it with cedar, and then let's see, and then a big, huge, soft bed of sage with a buffalo robe over that. Buffalo robe had a star quilt over that. Now these are the highest honors in Lakota country, and then everybody goes and to say their goodbyes, and everybody brings her a gift. Everybody brings gifts to honor her, to show how well she was loved, and then you could say your last goodbye. Well, my first experience with death was with one of my favorite girlfriends. She was Filipina, and we were best friends. Whenever we'd go to Denver, her and I would play together and dance together and stuff. And she passed away of cancer when she was only 16. That was my first experience with death. And then when my sister died, but I could feel her. I could feel my friend Marilyn. And then when Sylvia crossed over, it's like she came to me to let me know. We were sitting in a woman's lodge waiting for her to come out because the lodge was in her backyard. And then Lee, her son, came running up to the lodge and sat down. We said, "Where's your mama? We're really waiting for her." And he said, "I think she's dead." And we said, "What?" And we all piled out of the lodge, all the women, and ran in the house. And well, just as we got there, the ambulance had her, and she had had a massive heart attack. But we all felt her spirit. Then she came into the lodge with us. Her spirit came into the lodge with us. So, if the energy hangs on, and we believe it hangs on for 4 days. So, we honor them. And on the fourth day, we have a ceremony called wiping of the tears, because you don't want to cry for them for 4 days, because their spirit will look back at you and say, "I can't leave. They're crying. I can't leave." And so the spirit hangs around. So, so then you don't cry for 4 days. On the fourth day, you know that their spirit is now with the ancestors. And so that's when everybody really starts boohooing around, And then they have the wiping of the tears, and they go around with sage, and it's, they'll squeeze it like that, and then they wipe your eyes with the sage, and they do that. And then with my Honka sister, then the hearse came and put her in the hearse, and then we all ran after the hearse, and we did the Lili, and then we went back, and then everything that was in the ceremonial teepee, all the gifts and stuff, were brought out, and they were given away. It's called giveaway. We have giveaways for everything.
That was going to be my question. If the gifts
Yeah.
go with the person, or if they okay.
Yeah, no, they're given to her, and then they're given away after she leaves. Yeah. And this is when somebody in a household crosses over, everything that they had is given away. Everything in the house is given away. When Sylvia's son died of a massive heart attack about a year before she did, and when we all went down for his wake and ceremony and stuff, afterwards they gave all of his belongings away, and including a Harley David, all of the regalia that you need to go if you are a biker person, and all of his traditional clothing, his drum, and his everything is given away. And so, but on the reservation, they give everything away, not just that one person's belongings, but everything, because that person's energy is still attached in every room in the house. And so you want his energy to be able to leave with him. Everything is given away. And so everybody still has a piece of the energy of that person.
I bet that helps the family with closure, though. Also,
Oh, it does.
Like, that lingering energy probably is not.
And then you don't have to look at that and say, I remember when, that kind of thing.
Because every small little thing is gonna,
But then this is the interesting part, the part I love. On the reservation, when everybody gives everything in their house and their house is totally empty, then people start coming and bringing them everything they need. New sofas, new beds, new refrigerator, new whatever, everything that they needed, everything that they gave away comes back to them. And that's the way it works. It's
and
a
that's
circle.
the way it should be.
That's why we say everything is a circle. That's why we sit in a circle when we talk. The teepee is circular, because everything, the moon, the stars, they're all circular. The earth mother that we live on is a circle. Our bodies are circles. Our arms are circles. Everything is circular, everything. And so that's why everything goes back. Everything was taken, everything goes back.
I'm not mad at that at all.
Yeah.
What do you think about forgiving yourself for mistakes you've made and improving instead of beating yourself up?
Well, I used to really love to beat myself black and blue. Then I got tired of that. And I thought, oh, no, that pain lasts too long. I didn't really beat myself up, but yeah, I used to feel bad for a very long time. And I would carry that around with me, and I thought, well, that's goofy. So now, though, what I do is if I do something that makes me feel bad, I have to go away and be alone for a while. And then I have to work that through and try to figure out my reaction. Was it a real reaction, or, I just have to work it through. And it really doesn't take me as long anymore. I can be out of a slump in an hour. Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. Well, it took a long time for that to be able to happen for me. And the Red Road spiritual path.
Along the years, and especially when you got more heavily involved in your support of Indigenous people and your protests and things of that nature.
Yeah.
How much opposition did you have from people that just did not understand? Why do you care?
Oh, I don't know, because I hang around with a lot of Indigenous activists. And when I say Indigenous, I'm including the 4 nations, because there are a lot of, we're all, in the beginning times, we were all Indigenous, white, black, I have to go to the medicine wheel, black, red, yellow, and white. We were all Indigenous. And so we all lived by the spiritual laws of the universe. And so, what was the question?
Basically, how'd you keep your focus with people who just kind of, why are you doing all this? Why do you care?
Doing all this? Because I've been an activist for so long, I just don't know any other way to be. And when I went to Chiapas, I went down there because of the Actial massacre. They massacred 7 young men in that village, and not only the army, And not only did they kill them, they chopped their bodies up, and then they went to the homes that this, where the families live, and then they threw their body parts. Oh, you want them so bad? Well, here, we'll give them back to you. And when I heard that, and there was an indigenous delegation going down, I said, I've got to go there. I had to touch these women. I had to look them in the eyes, and I had to hold their shoulders, and I had to embrace them. I had to help them absorb that pain. I thought, how can they do it? I would go, and I know the hotel where we stayed. That was called, of course I'm going to forget. Oh, never mind. I better quit trying to remember names. Anyway, and her son was one of them, and she's the one that ran a big hotel in town, and she did. You could still see that she was never going to come back and be the same way. And I don't think I could either. That would happen to my child. Yeah. So that's what makes me care, is the women. How do women endure the things that they endure? When I was from Chiapas, we took buses out, and then we went out to stay with the Zapatistas, which was an interesting experience. And we did that because the Zapatistas were the ones who were fighting the government, the army, and I want to say PRI, but I don't know if that's right. But anyway, so when they were getting ready to go back to the hotel, they said, well, let's all get back on the bus, because we had gone to the refugee camp, because they stole all the best harvest of the people of Actial and took it all for themselves, and then burned down the rest of their food supply, their food source. And and then they put them in a refugee camp. And we went to visit them, and I'll tell you, this is the heart of us indigenous people who still practice our ways. They feasted us. They had chickens, they had rice, and they had beans. And they made us a feast of those things. And it was delicious. And just looking at them, who have been through so much. And still, it makes their heart happy to feed somebody who comes to them,
That's a mother.
Yeah. And so anyway, then I stayed at the week. Oh, they said, we're going back to the hotel. I said, I'm not. I didn't come all this way, travel all the way, by plane, train, bus, truck.
Boat.
I know. And, to go back to a hotel, I could stay at a hotel in the States if I wanted to. I didn't come here to do that. I'm staying in the compound. So I did. And so when I said that, a lot of the young people said that they were going to do that too. So they did. And we slept in the school. There's a thing online. You can find it online. It's called Escuelas de la Chiapas, which means schools for Chiapas. So we stayed there. They were building the school. And then we were talking and laughing, and they were so happy that I had decided to stay. Then that gave them, they were able to give themselves permission to stay. So we laid out our sleeping bags and stuff. And then we were talking. We were so excited and so thrilled. And then we said, so then we said, well, everybody started talking, slower, and we're really tired, so let's turn out the lights and go to sleep. So we turned them off, and it got really quiet after everybody said goodnight. And the next thing we know, the lights go back on. We go, what? Who did that? And then we all looked, and it was Zapatista men, all dressed in their black, with their black masks, with their rifles, and they told us to get up. And we said, what? They said, get up, you have to come with us. And we said, well, we can't, our leaders aren't here. And they said, no matter, you have to come with us. And so we thought, oh no, what's gonna happen? So we all had to, put on our robes, and a lot of us slept in our shorts and tights, and, those of us who could put on shoes did. And they marched us out into the night, big full moon, a lot of mountains around. And And here they are marching us out. And we thought, okay, they're going to, what do you call that? And they're going to, what is it called?
Like line you up and execute you?
Yeah, execute us. They're going to execute us. And because then they stepped back and then they all were facing us. And then they started circling like this and then coming in. So each one of us could look at each one of us. Each one of them could look at each one of us. And their question was this: what are you doing here? Why did you come? And so we all had to explain to them why we came. And when they came to me, I said, okay, I needed to, and I don't know how to say touch in Spanish. I had to touch the mujeres. Madre a madre, corazón a corazón, heart to heart, hand to hand, heart to heart. Yeah. I had to, like I said, I felt like I could absorb some of their pain, which I'm sure never went away.
What'd they say?
They didn't say anything. They just wanted to know why, and then they'd move on to the next person. And then we all got to go back to bed, and we weren't executed, and we were thrilled.
I probably, like, for weeks after that, I probably just like, was just bored in the middle of the night, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks. Great.
I know.
So after all that,
Yeah.
you're here now.
Here I am.
What is next?
What is next? Well, let me see. I'll be going to Korea early part of 25.
Oh, that's exciting.
Huh?
That's exciting.
Yeah, because I partner with what is it called? Sacred Hands. It's a group that a sister friend of mine, who is I think she's Acoma. She's a Pueblo Indian, and but she works now with the United Nations as well, and we've known each other before we were involved with the United Nations. We used to work with homeless Native Americans living with HIV/AIDS, struggling with it. That's the kind of work we both did. And so when we found out, and her heart is so good. When we found out she wasn't getting quite as much, well, she was getting more money than I was. And we said, let's collaborate. We can do more with our guys if we collaborate. So we did. And then I started, asking for money from a lot of the people that I knew. And so, we took all of them to South Dakota. And it was, as a matter of fact, it was the young women who were suffering with HIV/AIDS that I took outside, because they were suffering with it because they were raped, by somebody who gave them that. And so anyway, so Linda and I have always collaborated together. And so we're still collaborating now with the work we do with the UN.
Before we close, tell everybody your organization's name, how they can find you, reach out, donate, volunteer time, whatever other resources they have to spare.
Okay. Well, did I bring my purse down? Should I hold up a card?
You don't have to. You could just say,
okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, the name of the
it.
organization is Teoshpe Wiamaka, Extended Family of Women of the Earth. Teoshpe is spelled Tiospaye. Wia is Winyan, Maka, Maka. And you'll notice that in the Lakota language, S's are pronounced sh and C's are ch. So anyway, Teoshpe Wiamaka. And what else?
If you're on social media.
Oh, yeah, I am on social media. I'm on Facebook. And I think that's it. And email. I don't understand. I didn't learn how to even operate a computer until I was.
Take a sip.
until I was 58. And I'm still not very good at it. I'm not. So that's why I'm happy I have interns now because they go, Unchi, it's okay. We'll do it. We'll take care of it. Like, because that's why I love young people. People always ask me, Christinia, why do you hang out with so many young people? I said, well, for one thing, they know a heck of a lot more about today's world than I will ever know.
Keep your ear to the streets.
Yep, and they know all about technology. And little do they know, while they're doing all this, they have to come close to look, well, I'm stealing their youthful energy. And they said, oh, okay.
And you have interns. So if people are interested in interning, do you have a website that they can go to?
Well, it's being developed.
Okay.
But they can contact us on Facebook.
Okay.
And our phone number, well, my phone number is 970-290-0353. I have two offices situated in the United Way building. It's called UWCIC, United Way, and the Community Impact Center.
Okay.
The United Way administration is made up mostly of non-Indigenous, people of melanin. And all of us, we call ourselves basement dwellers, are all people of color, and we all have our own nonprofits. So we do a lot of collaboration together.
As you should.
Yeah, yeah. And, but I'm moving upstairs when I'm moving on up. It's true, I am. I'm going to move upstairs, and then, so Queen's son will move downstairs into my old office, and I'll be upstairs next to Queen. Yeah. And so they like the idea of, even the interns, they said, we like the idea of all the directors being up there, and all of us interns are down here without a director watching over us, so we can do whatever the hell we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the inmates running the asylum? Yep.
Yeah. Oh, so let's see. So my name, I spelled out that, and I spelled out my name, my name, and I spelled out Tears by Way of Maca.
Mm-hmm.
We're at 525 West Oak in Fort Collins.
Okay.
I gave you the phone number.
Colorado, that is.
Oh, yep. And I'm in Colorado. Fort
Okay.
Collins, Colorado.
And then if people want to volunteer their services, they can reach out to you in one of those avenues. And on your Facebook page, do you post like the different things that are available for volunteer work? And
we're starting to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have to tell you that Chicago also has a TWM. Jessica is the director of the TWM Chicago, and so she said, I said, because she makes a good amount of money, I said, if I can get you that amount, would you stay home and run TWM? Delete all that. Just that portion of it.
I will answer yes for her.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much in advance.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it's been good. See, it didn't hurt. It was great.
I know, it really didn't hurt.
Mm-hmm. People learn the lessons in resilience,
Yeah.
in color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I did talk about my healing path, right? How it was a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It took like 40, 50 years.
Yeah. And it's still every day there's at least a little work that's required.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with this show, we're trying to bring back, accountability, the art of conversing, because people don't talk anymore. Everybody's in their phones.
Yeah.
So everybody's running to just
Go
kinda,
to the restroom, which I have to do.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
We're done. We're done now. So
Okay. Well, I mean, I'd like to just sit and talk for a
well,
while.
we can do that. Yes.
Okay.
But I appreciate everybody for hanging in there with us and having patience with me while I was out. We will be back next week. Please subscribe on YouTube and follow on Rumble. We appreciate that. Journey to 10,000 is real, and we can't do it without you. We would super, super duper appreciate that. And I know I said comment and we'll ask the questions, but I know there was a lot of comments and we did not answer any of those questions. So we'll work on that. But again, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you learned something. We talk about this every week. I'm super serious. Everybody's entitled to love, peace, and understanding. Get some. Let's extend grace. Let's consume it as well. Get your lives together, people. Subscribe on YouTube and follow on Rumble. I don't want to have to get more aggressive than that. In the words of Avon Barksdale, keep it light, but keep it. Peace.
We didn't get a single question.
My bad.